We had been married for only 5 or 6 months when it all began. For my wife's birthday, I bought her a perfume she had always dreamed of owning. She was so happy when I gave it to her, but strangely, she never wore it. Instead, she placed it carefully inside the closet. That perfume stayed untouched, until one evening when we were getting ready for a party. My wife finally decided to wear it, but when she opened the closet, it was gone. No matter how hard we searched, we couldn't find it. My wife was certain she had put the perfume right there, but it had vanished. We weren't too worried at first. We thought maybe it had been misplaced somehow, but after that day, strange things began happening. Our belongings started disappearing, one by one. And then, after a while, they would reappear in odd places. It started with the kitchenware. Items would go missing silently, then return days later, as if nothing had happened. The lights in our home were the kind that turned on automatically whenever someone walked by. One night, I was fast asleep when suddenly, at 2:30 a.m., the hallway light flickered on. I woke up immediately and glanced toward the hallway. At first, I thought it was my wife going out, but then I realized she was still sleeping beside me. My heart pounding, I got out of bed and stood still, listening. Then I heard it. A faint shuffling sound coming from the hallway. For a moment, my eyes locked onto the dimly lit corridor. There, I saw it, a tall, shadowy creature whose head nearly touched the ceiling. It was completely black, like a living shadow. For a second, I thought I must be hallucinating. I rubbed my eyes hard, desperate to shake the image, but every time I blinked, it was closer. Fear gripped me so tightly I thought I might collapse. Then, suddenly, I forced myself to come to my senses. I slowly stretched out my hand to reach the pistol I always kept hidden under the bed. My wife woke up, threw the blanket aside and asked softly, "What's wrong?" I whispered, "There's someone in the house." She looked toward the hallway and said, "There's nobody there. See, the hallway light is off." And just like that, the black creature was gone. "You're hallucinating," she said gently. She didn't believe me, and honestly, I didn't want to frighten her or convince her otherwise. I stayed awake until morning, unable to shake the certainty that what I'd seen was real, that an unhuman creature had been in our home. Months passed, and slowly, I started forgetting about that terrifying night. Then, one evening, we returned from my mother-in-law's house. My wife was exhausted and went straight to bed. I, however, couldn't sleep. I turned on the TV and started watching a movie, though I don't know when exactly I must have dozed off in front of it. It was around 2 o'clock when I suddenly felt something or someone hit my leg. I woke up to see my wife looking half dead. She reached out and touched me. I shook her gently, asking what had happened. Her face had turned pale as chalk. She couldn't speak. I quickly poured water on her face to bring her around. She pointed a trembling finger toward the corner of the kitchen wall. That's when I noticed it. A black creature watching us from the shadows. Without thinking, I ran to the bedroom as fast as I could, grabbed the gun, and sprinted back to the kitchen. By the time I returned, my wife was coming back to her senses. "He's not there," she whispered. She was right, there was nobody. My wife was scared out of her mind, so I decided to say nothing and not question her further. Finally, she spoke, her voice trembling. I went to the kitchen to get a drink of water and I saw the scariest creature standing there. Then she added, "Let's get out of here. I can't stay here 1 minute more." I held her hand and said firmly, "You sleep now, don't worry. I'm on guard. If he comes near, I won't hesitate to shoot." Let's stay in the hall and keep the lights on. Don't turn them off, I said. She sat close to me and closed her eyes, trying to rest. As twilight approached, she suddenly got up, went to the bedroom and packed some clothes. Let's go to my father's home, she said quietly. It's not safe here anymore. I can't live here. Okay, I replied. We got ready to leave, but then I couldn't find the car's ignition switch. We looked at each other, the fear creeping in. She called a taxi. We quickly left the house and arrived at my father-in-law's place. She told him everything. My father-in-law is a wise man. He prepared a room for us to sleep in. I woke up after noon. My wife was still sleeping and her father was reading a book nearby. I sat there, thinking to myself, how long can we stay here? We can't be here forever. We decided to put the house up for sale and rent a new apartment. That day, my father-in-law didn't say a word to us. He was completely absorbed in a book, barely acknowledging our presence. Twice he left the house. Once he came back carrying a small parcel, and the second time he went out to buy food. That night, my wife and I were both asleep, when suddenly I felt a hand clamp over my mouth. I snapped awake and saw my father-in-law standing over me. He looked at his daughter, then quietly said to me, "Follow me." I got up and we left the room together. Once outside, he said, "Get dressed, we're going to your home." Without hesitation, I obeyed and we headed back to my house. When we arrived, my father-in-law whispered, "Don't turn on the lights." We entered quietly. He opened the small parcel, but I didn't dare ask what was inside. We sat silently on the sofa in the hallway, waiting. At exactly 3:30 a.m., a glass suddenly shattered in the kitchen. My father-in-law stood up calmly and walked toward the kitchen. I followed close behind him. He took a piece of wood from the parcel, a piece with the name of God inscribed on it. With all his strength, he called out, "Our God is the destroyer of demons and their evil energies." The dark creature stepped forward from the shadows. My father-in-law continued, his voice steady and commanding, "God, destroy you." The shadowy figure began to twist and writhe, turning into heavy smoke until it vanished completely. He turned to me and said firmly, "Now your home is free of the demon." I stood there in silence, barely able to process what had just happened. The air felt different now, lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted from the walls themselves. For the first time, that I could breathe without that invisible pressure on my chest. My father-in-law walked over and placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "It's over," he said, softer now. "You're safe." I nodded, feeling a wave of emotion rush through me. Fear, exhaustion, gratitude, all tangled together. The house, once suffocating and heavy with unseen menace, now felt like a home again.